Hey guys. Good evening. Who's here? Gosh, there's nearly too many to name. I can see Chirpy pop up. He's got a yellow icon. And Craig. Stephen Lang. Poppy. Digger up. Machine NZ. G'day, Kevin. Mark Osborne. Hello. Matty's Workshop. Still dragging through all this chat. Matty, g'day. Fridge, hello. Warren, g'day. Peter Noddle, hello. David, hello. Mixed lot, really? Mixed crowd. What's happening? I've got a video to make. Got a coat hanger to put up. Better make a video about it, I guess, and it's just such a big deal. Hashtag coat hanger 2020. Not much to it, sticking back on the wall. Maddie, fire situation. Yeah, we could do with an update. We'll see. Anyway, there's a coat hanger video coming. May or may not include this plastic bit, but we're on to that. Posted a picture of this T-nut. Can you believe it? On social media. Stephen, that sounds awesome. This is cast iron, in case you hadn't realised or you didn't know. Don't make T-nuts out of cast iron, folks, especially crappy cast iron. This was a back of a heater or something. I don't know what it was. So I had some cast iron strip and it was about the right size and it was a pretty easy job. And I needed some T-nuts in a hurry, and I reckon they were probably made on the shaper, to be honest. They've got those sort of tool marks in it, so I reckon that's what happened. And that was a while back. But it must have got something caught under one side of it, I reckon, and then I've done it up tight, and that's what happened. So make them out of decent steel. And that's what I'm going to do next. So eventually, that's how that's made. But that's not much good for anything. No mail this week. Pretty poor, but trying not to spend a whole lot of money, actually. Did get some silver steel for bits for this. I spent all weekend messing with this. It's getting there. Russ Knox, g'day. Coat hanger videos going up. We're getting there. Not far out now. This is good because you can take it off again later. Should be fun. go and check out Rustinox video on Codehanger 2020 if you haven't already, if you're wondering what all that's about, but it should be fun. Yeah, these are probably better, but they don't stay real tight, so we'll make something decent. I don't know what we'll get, some decent steel and fix that. There's a video out on YouTube about this 400 engine, which is a crazy build, and I'm first to admit that. It usually means that there's a bit of progress, because if there's a video on YouTube, it means that there's a video gone up on Patreon. So if you want to check it out on Patreon, go and have a look. All patrons get all content, so if you want to spec us for $1 a month, I really would appreciate it, and it all adds up. But there's the latest video about this and the trials and tribulations of doing this. This is a project that's way past my comfort zone, everyone. Hey John Begg, good to see you. Rustinox, please do an update. Keep us all in the loop. See how it's going. I'll have a video up before too long, but I've got plans. But it's never simple with me. That's the trouble. This weekend I put this shaft in here. It's kind of a crazy job, and I'm not going to sort of say that it's more than I probably should have bitten off, but it's more than I should have bitten off. If you have a look, I don't know if you can even see that. I'm going to pull this valve rod out because it's going to get bent, and I really don't want that. We've got a camshaft gear in here. Which actually meshes with the other one, which is pretty amazing. I'm going to pull this 3D printed piston out. Starting to wear in a bit now, and there's a little bit of backlash there, which is a bit of a... I was trying to avoid that, but it's not too shabby. It's not too shabby. So that's what I did, but I've had 3 attempts at it, to be honest. How hard can it be, eh? This is the first attempt. I stuffed up the gear. One quadrant out on one circle. So if you want to hear all the sad story of how that took about 26 hours to make that little shaft with the gear on it, check out the video. It's up to part 18, something like that. This build is starting to get a little bit closer, but I don't want it to finish because then I've got to think of something else to build, and at the moment I'm not even going there. We don't have any thoughts about that at all. But we do have a camshaft. All you crazy performance engine guys who know stuff about stuff, and I'm not one of them, but this is probably about the closest cam I've got to the profile it needs to be. Don't have any information on this cam. Hey Drew. This is 3D printed, and this is about the right profile, I think. The problem is that we can't have too much lift, because if I put this on here, like so, The problem is that if there's any more lift than that, it's going to touch here. It's pretty close. It wants a little bit of clearance there. So that's about the extent of it. And it's direct action on the valve, so I think that's enough lift. It does say, and it doesn't say very much actually. Oops, there go my needle files on the floor. Hey, Go Create, good to see ya. Keep up the good work on that engine build. Interesting, those rivets along the bottom of the firebox. I would have nearly said that was a bridge too far, but I hope they turned out okay. Good stuff. This is all the information I have on this cam. Lift is 1/8 of a turn. It's got a 1/8 taper pin. They're the two dimensions. Oh, it says that it's 3/8 1/4 wide and 3/8 shaft. This has got to be sailed down 3/4 of the size. There's nothing else really written anywhere or anything about this. So I'm kind of guessing. I think I'm going to make one and then try it and maybe make another one if it doesn't work. And of course the wiper cam goes on the outside here. Hey Dennis. And the contacts go across here with brass thumb nuts and everything. It's going to look the part, I think. Now this engine doesn't have a governor. I'm not sure if it's going to be needed or not. There's not a lot of valve lift and there's not a lot of efficiency happening here anywhere, but with a spark plug I think it's probably more efficient than the old hot tube ignition. However, I'm tossing up ideas to put a governor on this, and anything throttle governed doesn't seem to be a particularly easy thing to do unless you put another valve on the inlet with a ball governor and a lever, which seems a bit ugly and clumpy. Fridge, no, there's no information there at all. That's all I got. That's it. Not sure about that, whether I'm going to leave well enough alone and hope it doesn't race. I think it'll be comfortable at about 300 RPM, and it's gas system, a very simple gas system with a ball bearing that the suction lifts the ball bearing and lets the gas in, or the gas air mixture in, and that fires the engine, and then the exhaust valve pops to let the exhaust out. So it's a fairly simple thing, but I'm not sure whether, I guess the way to govern a gas engine really is to put another valve in the gas inlet, which is actually on this side, which is a problem, with some sort of a governor, and I could run a governor off that belt drive maybe, but it's getting a bit complicated. The other way I could do it is run a governor here and a detent on the rocker arm to hold the exhaust valve open, but that changes the way it runs. Thanks, Fridge. I'll go and pick your brains. Don't pretend you know anything about this, because you will pay for it. Anyway, that's beside the point, and it's not going to happen yet, and it's not going to happen until it's running, and if it races, we'll have to do something about a governor, but I don't believe it probably will. No carburetor tubey, it's running on LP gas. So it's a gas engine. All it's really got is a a gas jet valve, and a loose ball on a seat, and a suction inlet valve. So the gas sucks past a little hole for the air and pops the ball off and lets a bit of gas in as well. It's going to be a bit of fiddling around. Let's see if we can get it working. If we get it going, that's the other thing, is a flap on the inlet valve. That's probably not as stupid as it sounds. Thanks, Stephen, for that. Hey, John. So I'm still thinking about that. Now, manifold and everything's still got to be pattern made and cast and stuff. So there we go. Don't know what else is happening really. I did order a new cylinder head because the other one's hard. I made a bit of a start on it and it's not really particularly good. What goes at Maddie? Hit and miss would be the easiest, but it changes the way it runs a bit too. Thanks, Warren. Hopefully all this stuff's pretty straightforward. Maddie, what goes beside the cam load on the shaft? The wiper for the buzz coil ignition. That's what goes there. Take care, Rust Knox. Give us an update video. Expect a video sometime. So anyway, this is coming together. It's a great lump of a thing and it's pretty solid and it's a bit of a work, and I'm thinking sometimes that it's probably a bridge too far, but so far we're working it out. What else? Got these drills. Well, we've got the Brains Trust here. Don't know what these are called. They're for drilling brass, copper and stuff like that. They're pretty awesome. I'm in love with them, but I don't have a full set and I'd like a set. Losing the worm. If anyone knows what they're called or where you get them, I'd really like a set. I'm guessing that they're available somewhere in the world. These are old stock, I would say. They've got something written on it. High speed steel P&N Australia, it's got written there. Don't reckon you can see that. It's very unlikely that you can see that. So the Australian made, and they were a gift, and I've got a few different sizes, but I'd like a set of them. So if anyone knows what they're called, I'm going to look them out, because for drilling brass and sheet and stuff, they're fantastic. They're so awesome. Slow spiral drill, maybe they are, but in love with them completely. Need to get some. Thanks, Dennis. William Van Sant. Where did I get the cherry red? There's a place in Australia called EJ Winter, or Bolton Scale Models in Sydney. They were not a bad price, and they've got it in stock in Australia, so I got it there, but it's not particularly easy stuff. Yeah, they don't give you a 5-sided hole, which is awesome in brass. These drills, we're chopping and changing a bit, Maddie. But I like them. If you're drilling holes in sheet metal, they're amazing. It's kind of in love with them. Already said that. Straight flute drill bits are probably an option too. Hey, Tom. Another question for all you Australian guys. And probably for Cray, for Dennis too, I don't know. I have a stack of cutters here that need some work. Right? This is just a face cutter, slit and saw. Pretty useful tool on my mill. And gets a fair bit of work. And I probably abuse these a bit because I don't have a bandsaw, so these you get used as cut-off saws too, and they're pretty good. But this one needs some work. Where do I get them sharpened at the right price? That's a side and face cutter. That one is the size I use a lot too. This one's a bit dead. I've got another one of these, but this one needs a sharpen. There's another one there that could do with the grind too. That one's probably all right actually. But the other option too is outside China, who makes a reasonably good value for money tungsten carbide or tungsten carbide insert slitting saw about those, or probably those sort of dimensions. I don't know. Don't believe people do. Thanks, Craig. I'll check that out. Hey, Joseph. I guess the good thing to do would be to make a fixture and sharpen them, or make some sort of a tool to sharpen them. Can these be sharpened on a D-bit grinder, which is a tool that's probably in my future at some point sooner? Does anyone have any feedback on this or knowledge about that? John Creasy, do you know whether they can be done, or you've messed around with that? This is about the biggest one that I would run, which is about 4 inches, 100 mil, something like that. Anything bigger, it sort of tends to bump on my overarm, and I tend to not have enough slow speed to run it. And you can't cut any deeper anyway. K-Lot or Nene? Yeah, no problems at all, John. Just solve one problem at a time. How much do you charge to sharpen one? Yeah, I'll send you about 30 of them. Out of my price range. Yeah, I'm a bit leery, Dennis, of saw sharpeners in general. They tend to not really know a whole lot about saws. And something like this is a bit off topic we might struggle with, but I'm going to do some... There's a Harold Hall jig, eBay. Thanks, John. Appreciate that. It's worth having a look. It's probably in one of his books too. I'll have a bit of a look. So I've got a bit of a stack of these, and they could all do with the sharpen. Some of them, like this one's a bit more complex probably. Don't know about that. But these should be pretty easy to sharpen, I think. Get right. Usual price. There's a price. Owe you too much already, John? So in reality, that's where we are. Seem to be working with a lot of hard steel, so these high-speed cutters aren't particularly good. I'd like some carbide ones, and I'll have to look them out. Maybe they're available from China. You just block your ears over there in the corner, Dennis. I don't want to hear anything from you. But I don't know if they're much good either. We'd run out and stuff. I'm not sure, really. Hi, Emmett. I'm sure that with a saw sharpening jig and a tool and cutter grinder, you could sharpen these pretty quick. And someone with half a brain would be able to work it out. How am I? Gosh, how am I? I'm dazed and confused, I think, is probably the most of how I am. I'm okay. So didn't get anything done this weekend on the thread cutting attachment. Nothing at all. Very poor. Zero progress there. Zero progress on these clamps too. Really looking forward to getting them sorted. But I spent most of the weekend messing with this, and probably next weekend too if I make a cam. So that's coming up. It's pretty exciting. Sub count is growing nicely. Yes, it's up about 20 since I started this video on this. Yeah, gosh, if you're on Patreon and you check out this video on this camshaft, and look at the sub counter, it's up about 20 since I started that on Friday, so that's awesome. Yeah, kind of Harold stuff's, and we're going to have a little bit of a comment on Harold Hall. His stuff's generally pretty good. I've made a few of his projects. Just looking here on the bench, there's a set of these low angle clamps that were his project. These are pretty nice, except that the screws stick up too far and they end up getting mowed down. So you've got to replace them every now and again. And the issue with this is that after you've done a milling job, the holes fill up with dirt and you've got to vacuum them or magnet them out or something so that you can actually get an Allen key back in there to release them. But apart from that, these are awesome. They're Harold Hall design. So I'm a little bit of a fan. Honorary grandfather, John, that's strong. But yeah, he does some cool stuff. And of course, he's a Myford owner too, which doesn't really, yeah, who knows? You probably painted it green. Hey, Stefan, good to see you. I think this would look nice in a nice plum or a purple, I think, with a sort of a lilac stripe. I think that'd be really nice on this. That's where I'm at with it. If we're going to go there, I think probably look and just seeing if I've got something that's sort of about the right colour. A silica gel at the moment is about the right colour for the pinstripes. And then probably a purple or a plum. I think that's with a probably a lilac and a pale blue sort of a pinstripe on it. I think that'd be really nice. Anyway, it's not going to be that colour. You wait and see. I'm not going to ask anyone else. I'm just going to do it, and I've got it worked out already. But it's a long way off yet. I'm only messing with you, really. Thanks, Dennis, for that. I'll chase them up. Yeah, happy birthday, Stefan. I hope it was a good one. Yeah, a little bit jealous. I'd love a Myford, green or otherwise. That new teal, sort of teal green's very, very nice. Anyway. Apart from that, I don't know if there's much else really. We're only halfway into this, but I'm going to nearly call it, I think, unless someone else has got anything to offer. What's everyone else up to? Go and check out Stefan on Patreon. Support him. Guilt him up to getting some more videos out for us, because that's important from anyone's point of view. So go and check him out. That's awesome. He's well worth supporting. He's a really good creator there. If you're going to support anyone, he's the guy. It's been repainted 3 times already, Craig. The white's just for contrast on the camera. It's not the color at all. It's a really stupid color to paint anything. Yeah, I've got that sorted. It's going to be something much more practically. Craig, yeah, I heard that too. He's not doing so well there. So go and check that out. The worst thing that can happen is he'll make a few more videos. Gosh, Joseph, you watch them all. That's a big call. Yeah. Although they're watching them all is probably a... Yeah, is that a challenge, Digger up, is that a challenge? Thanks for the link, Craig. Joseph, yeah, they're all worth watching. There's some really good videos. Some of the early stuff's fantastic. I like to go back and watch them and ask stupid questions when he's online. It keeps him busy. I know he hasn't got much to do. I have people who actually watch all my videos, so you wonder about that. I really like that natural aluminium machine instead. I think good on you if you can do it. Yeah, mural chirpy. If you can do, Kevin, the natural aluminium and get to the end of it and not have any dings or scratches in it, that's fantastic. I don't believe with this engine build that I'm doing that's ever going to happen. And being castings, there's a lot more JB world in them than I'd like to admit to. So I sort of think that a sensible and down-to-earth thing to do with that little engine is to paint it or even anodize it. But if you can get through to the end and have it nice and polished in solid aluminium, do that for sure. It's awesome. JB World doesn't polish up all that well. Nothing from Bruce. Nah. Good night, Warren. Thanks for checking in. He said, "Will, it looks like a really nice engine." Kevin, does it have O-rings or does it have proper steel cast iron rings in the bore? That was something that interested me. I don't know if you look that far ahead. I wondered about that. I've got 1,000 questions about that engine. Yeah, Craig's right, and white cotton gloves for sure. Hey, JB. It's the man in question. Yep. Thanks for that. Anyway, everyone's had enough, so I'm going to call it a night. I'm only reading the comments tonight, really. Cast iron rings and a cast iron sleeve. I could keep on going indefinitely while you've got something to talk about. A lot of those little engines are put together with O-rings, and it seems to work pretty well. Certainly the easiest way. I think this engine's probably a bit big for it, but I haven't really given it a lot of thought. Yeah, can't wait for the next video. No pressure, Kevin. ETA on cylinder head casting and piston casting for this. Really good question, John. I believe they're not far away. In fact, I've actually seen the cylinder head casting that's been cast. So the job's well underway. Clark is crazy busy on Keith Rucker's crazy straight engines. I think they've sold 150, 130 or something of them, which is a lot of projects. I'm not the only one who buys projects that they're never going to finish. There's some reassurance come out of that, to be honest. I'm kind of happy that I'm not the only person who starts jobs that are never going to be finished. I believe, thanks to Mr. Keith Rucker and Mr. Clark Easterling, that there's probably a straight edge coming to me as well. A big thanks to those guys, but it also means that I've got to get in and make one or machine it and scrape it. So that's a wintertime job for me. Cast iron surface plates here, that's another job. I've got all these jobs that I've got to do, and I get back to eventually. Cast iron surface plates sitting here in the cupboard. I've got a box half made for it, and I've got to finish that. I've got to make some hinges and things for that. That's another job, thanks to JB, who I nagged him until he made the bits, and then I never got on with it, and I've got to do that. But the little cast iron surface plate, unless you mean the real little one, and I haven't got to that yet. That's another project. I have this one, which is dusty, dirty, and probably would make a good test plate for something. Hasn't happened yet. Hey, David. No, it's not flat, Craig. This one. This was a gift from Lance up in northern Queensland. It's not flat. It's never been machined. It's rough cast. It's probably a handy little lapping plate, like you say. Not sure about it. I've only got one of them. At some point, to be honest, if someone wants a project and they've got something to trade, hit me up. Poor John. There's procrastination on all these other projects. Tom, yeah, you missed it. It's cast iron. It was a bit of stuff that I had sitting here that wasn't of particularly good quality, and I made some T-nuts out of it in a hurry on the shaper one night, and they're all right. But this one's had something caught under it, I reckon, when I've done it up and I pulled the top out of it. So it's a bit of a mess. So don't make T-nuts out of cast iron. Craig's right. It's not a huge job, and I had every intention of doing it on the shaper, to be honest, and it might still happen. JB World. Yeah, probably not. So now that's out on the bench, that's bad news, because now that's out on the bench, I probably feel like I need to do something with it. Might make a really good project to see how good you can get a surface plate with JB World and no machining. That might be really interesting, but don't know if I want the views or the shock value that much. We need to see some more of my shaper, yes. This time of the year, the shaper gets put on the back bench. I'm thinking I could do a Stefan and sell it, but I really would miss it because there's a couple of jobs coming up that I'm really would like to have it, and it's useful for some things. So it's too good a machine, but it tends to be in the way a bit. The bench space would be nice too. Oh, Stefan, the steel bar and epoxy. Yeah, I wonder how that worked. I can see one eyebrow up over there already on the JB World surface plate thing. The stupid sensitive to temperature change. Yeah, I wonder about that. I imagine it might be. I won't do that then. This would challenge Physics Anonymous or whoever they were, their surface grinder build. Was it metric or imperial? That's a really good question. You could, Dennis. Yes, there's more trouble than we're well into more difficulty than I would ever expect to put into this project. I haven't got a use for this at this point. This party's getting rough. Who taught them imperial system and sent them overseas, I think is what they did, Stefan. Whoa. Anyway, I don't really have a purpose for this little surface plate. I've got another one, which I've got pretty good. It's about 25 points the inch. And now I've got it out and put fingerprints all over, I'm going to have to oil it up. This one's pretty good. We'll move back a bit so you can actually see it. This is... could do with a bit of oil on it. Really a bit happy with this, and it's not a bad surface plate at all. And to be honest, for model work, it's plenty good enough. And plenty enough for what I would ever use. And 9 times out of 10, I use this before I get the granite out. I really like this surface plate. This was Chris Anderson's entry into the toolmaking competition. He got this cast and I brought one back from America with me and ended up machining it and scraping it. And it's a pretty nice surface plate. Eagle Eyes there, Eagle oil can, yeah, it's Eagle 58, I think, is it? Yeah, it's 58. I've got a couple of them. I'm a sellout there, more so than on a lot of other things. Normally we have Sega here, and that's a good Australian brand, and they're not a bad oil can. This is the fantastic oil can for a couple of reasons. I like them. How stable is this? If I blued it up, it would still be, and I haven't checked it for probably 12 months, but I'm pretty confident if I blued this up, it would be still well over 20 points the inch all over. So I'm really pleased with this casting. This is fantastic, and it's nice and stable. It's come out of a good foundry in California. The big advantage this has over a Riga is it's easy to fill up. Right, this is where I'm at with it. Eagles are good because you can fill them up without a funnel, and that's awesome. It's nothing worse than spilling oil everywhere trying to fill up your oil can every time you go and do it. So trouble is with Rigas, when you knock them off the bench, the spout breaks off. That's the biggest problem with old Rigas, is that most of them have been soft soldered back together, and a lot of them are blocked up in the spout, and a lot of them leak there because they've all been knocked off the bench. Anyway, that's what funnels are for, Joseph says. Yeah. Anyway, these I think are fantastic. They've got a bit of protection around the spout. They've got a good solid base. They're easy to fill up. I like them. And you hold onto the oil can, not onto a handle at the back. So they don't make your arm ache quite as much when you're doing a whole lot of oiling. But there we go. I'm an Eagle fan, and they're the reasons. Yeah, compared to the surface plate, that's a big engine. Don't have any mistake about that. That is a big engine, and it's a big project. It's crazy big. That's what I'm saying. if I thought this through and knew what was involved, it probably would have been a bridge too far and I wouldn't have built this engine as this project. But anyway, it's about done. But anyway, I should get in and finish the box for this because it wouldn't hurt to have it. I've made a box so that it sits on its side. It's got a lift up lid and it sits on the handles on its side vertically. I think the box will be all right. People are saying sag and all this stuff, but this hasn't moved in 3 years, 4 years. Not even a little bit, so I don't think it's going to be an issue with it. And it's not a big job to check it and scrape it, and it's plenty good enough for what I do. Thanks, Maddie. It's crazy. Let's see if it actually runs. When it runs, I'll be proud of it. But I just look at it sometimes and just shake my head because that's a lot of cast iron and a lot of complicated setups and things so far, and I don't think they're over yet. Borrowed my mate's mill, the same one we did this bore on. Run over it with a big tungsten cutter. It machined beautifully. This is a good casting. If you're looking for one, hit Chris Anderson up at Old Iron Shops, because this is a fantastic casting. This is probably one of the nicest castings I've ever. No offense to anyone else, but it's a simple shape. It's easy to cast. It's not too complicated. It has got a plate on it. Yes, there's a little bit of vanity happening there. Just so you know, it's a bit crazy. Could do with a polish, but it's a nice, easy shape to cast and to get right. And this particular casting is fantastic. And probably the guy who made the pattern knows something about pattern making. This is a different thing altogether. We've had issues with these castings. For one, they're only about 10% of the thickness in the thickest part than this is in the thinnest part. So there's a lot more metal in here to cool off slow and not end up with chill spots in it. And it's a nice clean shape so you don't get sand knockout or sand wash when it's been poured. So with this casting, it's a much, much, much more bulletproof design to cast and to get a good casting out of. Comparing these two is like comparing chalk and cheese. They're completely different substances. You can't really compare them. The thickness in here is about 1/4 of an inch, or around here. The thickness in the bore at the moment is about 1/8 of an inch. The thickness through here is probably 5 mil, 3/16, something like that. All the way through, it's fairly thin, and these lugs are about the thickest part of it. And this is a rotten casting to pour because it's got two cores in it, and it's got a lot of little nooks and crannies, and there's a lot of sharp corners that the metal swirls around in and knocks sand out and gives you problems with washout and with sand inclusions. Not only that, this casting takes about 1/10 of the time to cool off in sand as this does. So you've got a problem there with chill. So all in all, this is a really rotten casting from a rotten pattern maker that a pretty good foundryman has actually made something reasonably good out of. This is a pretty good casting from a good pattern maker that a commercial foundry, a big commercial foundry, has poured, and they turned out magic. Gosh, sorry, Kevin. Good night. Sleep well. Joseph, we fully intend that to be the case, so I'm sort of glad. When you get a casting gun, do you pay per casting or by weight or volume? Usually per casting. Yeah, everything's made of rubber. This casting here, I imagine, would be a lot cheaper and easier to pour. It's only a one-piece flat casting. It's got a flat mold on one side and lots of draft. It's a pretty nice casting. This probably took him 5 or 6 or 8 hours or something to mold up. I imagine there's a lot of work, and he didn't tell me how much. But you can't compare the two castings. It's just not how it is. They're both completely different jobs. Anyway, well, we're coming up for an hour. I'm going to call it now. I said this before, but you all keep entertaining me, so that's cool. Really appreciate you guys from checking in. If you've got a spare $1 a month, check me out on Patreon. That's a shameless plug, and I'm sorry I'm doing it. I'm not sorry, really, but this project is possible because of the guys who do that, and I really, really, really appreciate that. You know who you are, but one tier is $4. If you only put $1 in, you still got access. It's an amazing service that is patronized by some amazing guys that make projects like this possible, because there's no way I would have done it on my own for airtime. Craig, yes, I reckon this would be a lot cheaper than that. Take care, Stephen. Get some sleep. You're right. It's easier to mold up. Take care. Go create. How does it work? I think it works through PayPal. Yes, it must work through PayPal, Joseph. Good night, everyone. Good night, Craig. Email coming from me at some point. Take care, Chirpy. I should email you too. Keep the videos coming. Everyone else too. Thanks for the inspiration and for the great videos. There's some good stuff coming out at the moment. Check out Russ Knox video. Check out Stefan's latest couple of videos. And yeah, be kind to each other, and in particular to me. And thanks for that. I'm out.